2 years after her daughter vanished from school without a trace, Melissa thought she had lost everything. Lily had simply disappeared one ordinary morning, no signs of a struggle. No clues, no answers. But just when the world had gone quiet, and the case had faded into cold silence, something unexpected happened. Melissa, still desperate for hope, was scrolling through Google Maps late one night when she spotted something that made her sit up straight. There, on a random street view in a small town hundreds of miles away, was a little girl in a pink hoodie walking beside a man. The image was blurry, but to Melissa, it looked exactly like Lily. That one photo changed everything. In part 1 of this story, we followed Melissa's relentless journey, how she followed her instincts, traveled to the unfamiliar town, and came face to face with a mystery even deeper than she imagined. But that was only the beginning. Because now, in part 2, Melissa uncovers shocking new details that raise even more questions. Who was the man in the street view image? Why was Lily in that neighborhood? And what had really happened during those missing 2 years? As Melissa digs deeper into the truth, she realizes the Google Maps clue wasn't just a coincidence, was a window into something much bigger. And just when she thinks she's getting closer, another disturbing discovery threatens to change everything all over again. What Melissa finds next will leave you speechless. Melissa couldn't shake the image from her head. She had stared at that street view for hours, zooming in and out, comparing the girl's features to old photos of Lily. The height, the clothes, even the way she walked too, all felt too familiar. She printed out the image, circled the location on a map, and started planning. The address led her to a quiet neighborhood on the edge of a small town in New York, far from where Lily had gone missing. What was she doing there? And who was the man walking beside her? When Melissa arrived in the town, she drove down the same street she'd seen on Google Maps, Mole Street. It looked just like the image. The church, the sidewalk, the row of identical brick houses, but no sign of the girl. No sign of the man either. She asked around, but most neighbors didn't remember seeing anything unusual. A few said they'd seen a man who looked like the one in the image, but no one knew his name or where he lived. The church was locked, and the pastor hadn't been around for weeks, according to one of the locals. That night, sitting in her motel room, Melissa noticed something else in the Google Maps photo she hadn't before. Small black car parked near the edge of the street. She zoomed in on the license plate. It was partially blocked by glare, but enough of the numbers were visible. Melissa wrote them down, her hands shaking. The partial license plate was all Melissa had to go on. But it was enough to stir something inside her, a quiet determination that refused to die. The next morning, she went to the local police station. She was cautious, choosing her words carefully. She showed the blurry street view image, explained the situation, and asked if they could help run the plate. The officer on duty was polite but hesitant. Without more concrete evidence, it wasn't something they could act on immediately. Still, he agreed to look into it. Though Melissa could tell it wasn't a priority, frustrated but not defeated, Melissa took matters into her own hands. She started visiting nearby shops and asking if anyone had security footage from around the same time the Google Maps image was captured. Most places had long since overwritten old recordings, but one small gas station on the corner had a system that stored archived footage. With a manager's permission, Melissa sat through hours of grainy video, fast-forwarding through days of ordinary life. Just when she was about to give up, she saw it, the same black car from the street view image, pulling up to the pump late one afternoon. And in the passenger seat was a girl wearing a pink hoodie. Melissa paused the footage, staring at the screen. The driver was clearer this time, and though his face was unfamiliar, something about him felt wrong. Her instincts kicked in again. This wasn't random. Whoever he was hiding something. And Lily might still be close. Melissa left the gas station with the footage saved on a flash drive, her heart pounding. She had a clearer image now, both of the man's face and of the car, but she still didn't have a name, and worse, no clue where they had gone. She started driving up and down nearby neighborhoods, looking for that same vehicle. She was running low on sleep, but she didn't care. Something inside her kept pushing, telling her she was getting closer. On the third day, parked near an old community center, she saw it. The same black car, same dent on the back bumper. She pulled over and snapped photos, then quietly watched from her car, fingers gripping the steering wheel. After nearly an hour, the man stepped out of the building. He looked around cautiously before heading to the trunk. And then Melissa's breath caught. Lily stepped out behind him. Her hair was longer, her face older, but it was her. She didn't look scared, but she didn't look free either. Melissa quickly dialed the police, her voice shaking as she gave them the location and described the scene. They told her to stay in the car and wait, but every second felt like an hour. Suddenly, the man looked in Melissa's direction. For a moment, their eyes locked. Then he grabbed Lily's hand and turned sharply back toward the building. Melissa felt her heart drop. She had found her daughter, but now she might lose her all over again. Melissa couldn't just sit and wait. As the man dragged Lily back toward the building, she jumped out of her car and shouted her daughter's name, Lily. The girl turned, startled, but the man yanked her arm and hurried faster. Melissa sprinted after them, but by the time she reached the door, it slammed shut and locked from the inside. She pounded on it, screaming, but there was no response. Moments later, she heard movement behind her police sirens. They were finally here, but just as the officers approached, a sharp, familiar sound echoed from around the back of the building, tires screeching. Melissa and the officers rushed to the rear parking lot only to see a second black car identical to the one she had been tracking speeding away down the alley. It wasn't the man driving this time. It was someone else, and Lily was in the back seat. Everyone had been watching the wrong car. Melissa felt the ground shift beneath her. There hadn't just been one man, there had been two. One was a decoy, meant to distract anyone who got too close. The whole thing had been planned, coordinated. It wasn't just a random kidnapping, it was a network. And Lily wasn't just a missing person anymore. She was caught in something much bigger. As the real getaway car disappeared around the corner, Melissa turned to the officers. "They knew I was coming," she said quietly. And with those words, the pieces began to fall into place, but the full picture was darker than she ever imagined. Police immediately issued an alert on the second black car. Melissa rode with one of the detectives as they followed traffic cameras and nearby surveillance. After nearly an hour of tense silence, they tracked the vehicle to an abandoned farmhouse outside town. It was hidden behind overgrown trees, far from the main road. When the team approached, weapons drawn, Melissa's heart raced. The house looked still, but there was movement in the upstairs window, a shadow shifting behind a curtain. Officers stormed in, and after minutes that felt like hours, a voice crackled over the radio. "We've got her. The girl's safe." Melissa pushed past the line and found Lily in a small, dimly lit room. Her face lit up the second she saw her mom. Tears poured down as they embraced, both shaking. Lily whispered, "I knew you'd come." But just as they were about to leave, one of the detectives pulled Melissa aside. "There's something else," he said, holding up a photo found in the house. It was taken from a distance, a shot of Melissa outside her home just weeks earlier. Another showed her car parked near a coffee shop. These people hadn't just been watching Lily. They had been watching Melissa too. That's when it hit her. This wasn't over. Someone else was still out there. Someone who knew where she lived, where she went, and how close she had come to uncovering everything. The man they caught. He wasn't the one in charge. He was just following orders. In the weeks that followed, authorities worked around the clock to trace the organization behind Lily's disappearance. With the help of Lily's statements and evidence from the farmhouse, investigators uncovered a small network that had been quietly operating across several states. Arrests were made, names released, and connections slowly unraveled. While the leader behind it all remained unidentified, the operation was mostly shut down, and Lily was finally safe. Still, Melissa couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, was still watching. Lily returned home to a quiet neighborhood that had changed in her absence. She was different, to Eldor in ways no child should be, but brave and grounded. She started therapy and began drawing again, often sketching the places she remembered, the faces, even the view from the upstairs window where she had waited for help. Melissa, too, changed. She installed cameras, took self-defense classes, and joined a local advocacy group for families of missing children. She knew her story wasn't just about fear, was about persistence, about never giving up even when the world stops listening. The image that started it all, the blurry Google Maps photo, was framed in their living room,